Hey guys, welcome back to the Jays Sit Down podcast. I'm your host Jaden, and today we're going to be talking about NFL free agency, which is kicked off officially here in the National Football League. And we already had a lot of signings, had a few trades go down the past couple of days. DK Metcalf and Geno Smith, the notable names, they're being moved on the trade market. So we're going to get to all that. I'll give my thoughts, my opinions, my analysis on these moves that these teams have been making so far since free agency has been open. We'll go ahead and get started with that. Before we do that, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button in the right corner of your screen. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Instagram, X, Jays With Down Pod. Also, we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you want to listen to the audio versions of these episodes at Jays With Down, ! Jays With Down Football Podcast. No, Jays With Down, ! It's one of the two. The rain has got me all messed up, y'all, so forgive me. But that's the main thing today. So please make sure you guys do that. We would appreciate it here at Jays With Down. And, I've been off for a while, but going to get back to it now. So, just try to keep pumping some episodes out for you guys here as free agency is opened up and we're getting to the nits and grits of the NFL offseason. Look at it like this. Football will be back, within 6 months. So it'll be here before you know it. You got the draft coming up in April. We already had the combine happening, last week. So we're inching through, and then eventually mini camp will start and training camp and all that kind of stuff. We'll have coverage, everything you guys need to know right here at Jays With Down. But yeah, so I want to start off with DK Metcalf going to the Steelers. Seattle traded him, and this is something that we saw coming. I feel like for DK Metcalf personally, I think he was kind of tired of his time in Seattle, and he wanted to move to a different offense, a contending offense. And now the Seahawks decided to trade him to the Steelers. So, I guess, hey, in life, we don't always get what we want, DK. I want $1 million, but I don't have it. So main thing here, though, is for the Steelers, I like the move. However, their quarterback situation has not been solved yet. I know free agency just started today, but Russell Wilson and Justin Fields were the two quarterbacks last year they had, and they were kind of rotating them. And, Justin Fields was the starter at first, and then Russell Wilson came in. And then, sometimes they would have packages where they would bring in Justin Fields to run some Wildcat stuff or whatever it may be. And now both of those guys, I believe, are free agents, if I'm not mistaken. So what the Steelers are going to do here is a question at quarterback. And I think that's something that, unfortunately for DK Metcalf, he can't control where he gets traded to. But if he could, he probably would have thought about their situation, their quarterback situation is it has not been figured out yet. So that's probably a team I wouldn't want to go to. And it's in a cold place, which is what he actually named. He wanted to play in a warm climate. So again, we don't always get what we want. But that being said, he goes to a Steelers offense that has George Pickens, and you got Najee Harris in the backfield. And this is an offense ran by Arthur Smith that can get, while better than the 2023 and 2022 offenses that the Steelers had, they still last year were, still could get stagnant at times and predict what offense could get. And you're going up against these contending AFC teams, especially in your division, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and you get into the playoffs, you're going to have to be able to move your offense up and down the field. You're going to have to be able to throw the football with consistency. You're going to have the defense is going to have to respect the pass for you. They're going to have to be able to respect the pass, and that way you'll be able to run the football, and vice versa. The Steelers are decent at running the football, but they're the passing game has just not been what it could be. Obviously, what they want it to be. Until it gets to that point, defenses are not going to respect it, and they're going to play back, or rather they're going to play back, and, they're just not going to let you throw the football at all. And for the Steelers, they're going to have to get that figured out with the quarterback situation. So now I don't know where Sam Darnold is going, but it's looking like he might go to Seattle with Geno Smith getting traded, which I'll get to here in a second. But if you're Pittsburgh, me personally, I would try to bring back Justin Fields. I would try to bring him back because when he started for them, he did well. He played serviceable. He did well. He didn't turn the football over a lot, which is what you always want. Russ played good too when he was in, but ultimately, I think Fields being a starter, being the starter longevity-wise is the better option for the Steelers here. And it doesn't look like that's going to be the case for them. I don't think they're going to bring either of them back. So that begs the question, who are they going to bring in to be the quarterback? And this draft, I don't see the Steelers I definitely don't see them trying to trade up for anything, considering they just traded one of their draft picks for DK Metcalf, albeit, a mid-round pick, but still. So that being said, I think they're done trading for right now. So it's looking like it's going to have to be a free agents pickup. Like I don't know, or they bring back one of their guys. But moving on to Geno Smith, though, like I said, he got traded to the Raiders, where he reunites with Pete Carroll, who's his old head coach in Seattle. And Pete Carroll, of course, as you all know, got hired by the Raiders a few weeks ago to be their head coach. So now he reunites with him, and the Raiders kind of solved their quarterback situation momentarily. However, still need a long-term option. A lot of people thought they might, try to trade up for one in the draft, try to get a guy like Shedeur Sanders or who I don't really think is all that good. He's good, but that's a whole conversation for different podcasts. Or Cam Ward, or even a guy like Jackson Dart, right, who I think could actually sneak into the top, quarterback pick range. He's a very, very good player. And so you got a lot of guys here on that list, but again, that's for a different conversation. But it seems like they're going to go like the bridge route and and they go with Geno Smith here, who has been serviceable for Seattle the past couple of years, albeit last year not his best season. He probably had his best season a couple of years ago. Pete Carroll was still the head coach. So that's how it goes there. But moving on, Davante Adams signing with the Rams, 2-year, $46 million deal. So he leaves the Jets, and Rodgers leaves the Jets. And Davante Adams decides to go to LA, which is a team that has got a young, fast building defense that they played, spotty in some situations last year. But again, I feel like that's based on their experience. And that's why they were struggling a lot in the playoffs. But that defense is good. They're fast. They're physical. They know how to get. They have to get after it. They can tackle. I like the Rams' defense and how they're being coached and how, how they run. How Dan Shula runs that defense over there. And he's a young coordinator rising up in the league. So it's very impressive how they're doing it. And I feel like the Rams, especially locking back Matthew Stafford, to come and play again for the next couple of years, they still feel like they're a Super Bowl contending team. So getting a guy like Davante Adams to that receiving core, Puka Nacua, now Cooper Kupp more likely than not is going to be traded at some point. Because he obviously, him and the Rams both agreed that was the best option for him. So he's going to be out, and you bring Davante Adams in. I'm interested to see how that receiving room is going to look for the Rams. And they could be a big help for them. And they also resigned Jimmy Garoppolo, to come back to be their backup. So there's that too. But overall, I think, a good choice for Davante Adams, who was not the guy he once was 3 or 4 years ago. But he's still a solid receiver, put over 800 yards, 7 touchdowns with the Jets this past season. Definitely a guy that can contribute. And that's what I probably expect for him to come in and do here. Like at least 700 to 800 yards, like 6-7 touchdowns. To me, that's good production. I don't need you to come in here 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns. Obviously, we don't know. We know he's not that player anymore. But come in and you contribute a solid, stats-wise production year. And, that's that. We just need you to come in and do your job and produce. Play wide receiver in the NFL. And I think he's more than capable of doing that at this stage of his career. Because right now, Davante Adams, what he cares about is winning championships. Now, unfortunately, he may not do that with his old buddy Aaron Rodgers, who we don't know where he's going either. Again, different conversation. But there's that. Myles Garrett signs a 4-year extension with the Browns. So $123.5 million guaranteed. And that includes a $40 million annual salary, which is the highest for a non-QB in the NFL as far as annual salary getting paid that. And actually topped Max Crosby's deal, who he got that deal a couple of days ago. So the Browns actually reset the market with that, bringing back Myles Garrett, who requested a trade earlier this offseason. Not going to get it right now. The Browns are in a situation where, listen, we all know the Deshaun Watson trade killed them. It destroyed them. And I will stand on that hill. Like they shouldn't have done that. Because he's not the quarterback that he once was, obviously. And they knew that. they went ahead and gave him that guaranteed money anyway. And it's kind of put them in this limbo as far as like they have talent to contend, they can't though. So that's the thing. But Josh Allen also making some headlines as the MVP of this past season. He agreed to a 6-year contract worth $330 million, including $250 million guaranteed. Man, these guys are getting these guys are getting paid. And it's to some of them, it's like, man, even the rookies who are under $800,000 contracts, people like me, we would love that. But it's like to them, that's pocket change. It's really crazy when we actually put in perspective like how much like professional sports players, basketball, football, soccer, especially baseball players make, and like you put that into perspective of how what the average salaries that us everyday people make. It's really just insane just when you actually sit down and you actually think about these things. But I just wanted to say that real quick. So Josh Allen, I hate it for him that he hasn't been able to do it and get to the Super Bowl. I mean, the past couple of years, he runs Patrick Mahomes every year, and it's becoming a running theme at this point. And I don't know when the Bills will get over that hump, and they can only keep saying that they will eventually so much before it's like, okay, the fans are going to like, okay, well, we need you to actually do it. And they haven't done it. So, but, I mean, they re-signed Greg Rousseau, one of their star defensive ends, to a contract extension, bringing him back. They lost Von Miller to free agency. They cut him. So, the Bills got some work to do, but I think overall they got a solid defense. Terrell Bernard, who they also extended, where he played great last year. Offensively, Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, who I expect to take a bit of a jump in year 2 for him. Like, it's just a matter of when they get to the postseason, you got to take down the Chiefs. That's the name of the deal. But I'm not going to reiterate something that we always talk about on this podcast, and that's to talk about constantly in sports media coverage with the Bills. Milton Williams signs with the Panthers for a contract worth $20 million per year, and I feel like this is a huge underrated pickup for Carolina right now. Like, this is a big pickup for the Panthers, and I'm a Falcons fan, so it's like they're my rival. The Panthers are, but I will say this: Milton Williams had a solid season. Had over a 40% pressure rate against quarterbacks, which is really good. He's a guy that's definitely underrated, and he's improved each year he's been in the league, and he played a big part in that Super Bowl win for the Eagles over the Chiefs. So I'm glad he's getting his payday. And it wasn't for Philadelphia. It wasn't with Philadelphia, unfortunately, for Eagles fans. But he goes to Carolina, who is, a team that I wouldn't put past to make a significant improvement. I won't say they're going to make the playoffs, but they're a team that people do need to watch for, as far as they can show you that they're not a bottom feeder team. They just need to make a few adjustments to their team defensively. This is a big one right here, getting Milton Williams. But Bryce Young, I feel like he's got his confidence back, which is important. He seemed like he had lost it throughout that time before he got benched this past season. Then, him coming back into the lineup, he started to play better. And he started to believe in himself, and he was able to show why he was picked, to be the quarterback for the Panthers. So there's something to think about. Drew Dalman to the Bears, 3-year, $42 million deal. Former Falcons center, now he goes to the Bears. The Bears have been upgrading their offensive line this offseason so far. Obviously, trying to protect Caleb Williams, who took over 60 sacks a season ago. Very bad. Offensive line is very important in the NFL. You got to be able to protect your quarterback. That's just the name of the game. That's just how it goes. You got to be able to keep your guy back there upright. And Carlton Davis and DJ Reed, so, two solid corners in the NFL. Carlton Davis goes to the Patriots for a 3-year, $60 million deal. So Mike Vrabel gets some help to his secondary. And DJ Reed goes to the Lions on a 3-year, $48 million deal. So a solid pickup there for Detroit in their secondary as well. I think the only thing with Carlton Davis for me is he's a great player when he's out there. He does have a tendency to get injured sometimes. So that's the only thing I would say about him. But other than that, he's a really solid corner. I like how he plays. He plays physical. He can cover really well. Got a knack for the ball. And I say Mike Vrabel is really trying to turn New England around from what they've been the last couple of years. I mean, there was a dumpster fire last year. Rob Mayo taking over as head coach then, and it just wasn't working. So My variables obviously like, hey, we're gonna come in here and I'm gonna run this program, this franchise how I want to, and we're gonna be physical, we're gonna be tough, we're gonna get after you offensively, defensively. So that's the mantra like he had in Tennessee when he was head coach. He ran that to New England being the head coach. Even as a player, he had that mentality. And it's really people undermine this thing with football, and really under sport, but especially football. And I can speak to this from experience. When you have a head coach who has that mentality, not just the talking, but the mentality that he exhibits through his behavior, whether it's in practice or in film or whatever the case may be, and the players see that, they're going to start to fall in line with that because they see it. This coach actually, these are the goals that he has for the team, for the franchise, that he wants to win. And if he's showing these things, it makes us buy in. But when you have a coach who doesn't do that, who does not set that standard, who does not set the tone, who, in addition to that, is exemplifying what he's preaching, and holding his coaches accountable, his coordinators, his staff, his players accountable, then it's going to create a bad environment, and it's going to be a losing environment, right? So people undermine that fact. It's a very important thing to have in sports. It starts with the head coach. The head coach ownership, but really the head coach, and it's going to trickle down to the players. What monkey see, monkey do. So, but that's going to pretty much wrap us up for Free Agency Frenzy, guys, today here on Jay's Fifth Down. So, yeah, I'm sure I probably missed a couple of deals that probably just happened while I was doing this podcast. So, but yeah, Free Agency is open now, and we'll see what other moves get made. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit that button in the right corner of your screen. Also follow us on the socials, Instagram, X, and TikTok, Jay's Fifth Down Pod, Jay's Fifth Down ! On Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you next time on the show.